Welcome, everybody, to Catfish Weekly, presented by Whisker Wear Apparel. Along with Doc Lang, I'm Lyle Stokes, and we got a bunch of stuff to go over tonight. Doc, how's the weather out in Ohio?
It is beautiful. It was fairly hot today, and then the rains came through and cooled it down. It's mid-70s right now. Real nice. I got the windows open in the house, so if you start hearing sirens or dogs barking, let me know. I can close a few things up, but right now I got a breeze that's coming right across. I'm surprised that Survivor banner's not sitting here flapping in the wind.
So. You know, I remember Chuck used to sit out on his front porch and do the show with us, and till the skeeters got to eating him up, and I just envied that so much because I always sit in here with the air conditioner, but I just turned the air conditioner on last week, and it just got so bad that I couldn't stand it anymore. Come here, come here.
Uh-oh.
I'll show you my new baby. Look.
Oh,
how about that?
There you go.
We're going to make a video star out of her. We're going to take her to the lake with us and do some shooting one of these days. We're going to have to get a little more used to her, but she's doing really good. We picked her up yesterday, left the Fishing for Freedom tournament in Quincy, drove all the way to Chillicothe, or right there by Chillicothe, and picked her up, and she's just doing wonderful. We can't wait to get her in the boat.
Good deal.
Yep, she's a sweetheart. Real well-mannered, just doing 100, and we're pretty happy with her. She's awesome. We fished the Fishing for Freedom tournament over the weekend, Doc. I know that work keeps you from doing some of these events like this, but
had to work. It was killing me.
It was a wonderful event. I was told, and I don't have the numbers on this correctly, we need to get Randall involved in this again here one of these days, because I didn't get the winners of all the divisions and all that sent to me yet. But I have been told that that event that they hold in Quincy, Illinois, is now the largest Fishing for Freedom event in the nation.
Wow!
And I'm very proud of what them guys do up there. They work so hard. If you get a chance to watch our shows that we done up there, I got to interview the guy that originally started the very first Fishing for Freedom in Quincy. We had a really good time with him and several of the guys on there, and we're going to try to do a bigger, more interview type thing with more of the warriors and boaters next year. Get out of there. And, you know, just to make it better, because those guys do so much for us. If we can do just a little bit of stuff for them, to make it better, it'll be a lot of fun. And we get excited about that tournament because it's just a blast, and they all seem to enjoy it, and we sure do. Water was rocking up there, Doc. I mean, you'd have loved it, you know, depending on where you's at, anywhere from 3 and 4 to 6, 7 mile an hour.
That's like being back in Memphis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty hot up there, but a lot of the guys went up. A lot of the guys went up above Keokuk where it's wider. It wasn't quite as bad. And our old buddy Ken Pryor, he went over to Mark Twain Lake and took his sea arc over there and instead of fishing for catfish, he had a couple of guys that wanted to bass fish. So he took them bass fishing. They wasn't doing any good, so he called his son. His son took his catfishing rods down there to him, met him at the dock. He took them out catfishing, ended up winning the catfish division over there. So that's the only one that I know of that went on. I didn't get all the results, but I was glad for Ken. He taken 2 different guys out in his boat, and there was a lot of the boaters that took 2 people out in their boats this year. But it's just an awesome event, and we're proud to be a part of that, and hopefully we can make a bigger deal the next year for them than we did this year. What did you have going on this weekend?
Me? Well, I worked, and then I put new axles on my boat, boat trailer.
Big deal.
Yeah, two brand new ones. So
well, you should be good for a long time to come.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and just put new spindles and, you know, weld them in myself. And it was actually cheaper to just go ahead and buy the whole axle with them already attached
Oh,
and
wow.
to buy the spindles. So,
Huh. Well, that'd be the way to go then. There's no question about it.
yeah. So I just, I work 12 hours. So I'd come home from working, and then on Friday I work 2 hours on it, and then on Saturday I work 2 hours on it, and then on Sunday I work like 3 hours on it, and then I finished it up today. So,
Well, that's good. I'm glad you got
wasn't
her all
bad at
done.
all.
You won't have to worry about none of that stuff for a
Nah.
long time to come. Just pack you some wheel bearings and go on.
Yep, and I do that.
I do know you do that. Yes, sir, I do. We have a really great guest on the show with us tonight, Doc. We
Yes,
got
we
Nick
do.
DeShano with Offshore Tackle, and Nick him and his family have a really great product, and they do a lot for the fishing community. And they've recently got into the catfish end of it. I got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed with their stuff. Welcome to the show, Nick.
I'm glad to be here.
We have a mutual friend, Robert, with Survivor Unit and Crusher Marine, and Robert, he has really jumped into catfishing into this in a huge way. And of course, he introduced you to me and me to you and Doc and all that. And we're really happy that you would spend your evening with us on the show tonight. Tell us about what you got.
Well, and it's been a lot of fun. We're learning about a new fish for me. I haven't fished a whole lot of catfish. I haven't caught a whole lot of them on purpose, and I'm looking forward to it. And I have fun learning a new fish. And we just been doing the crappie fish in the south for a while, and now we're looking into getting into some catfish. And it looks like a blast. It's a whole lot different than holding up this little crappie, and now you got to hold the fish, and when you got to hug it, you got a good fish.
Yep.
That's correct. Now, where are you guys located at, Nick?
We're in Michigan. We're in Port Austin, Michigan, which is right on the tip of our thumb. You get our Michigan map out, and it's right up on the tip of our thumb. And then it's on Lake Huron. So we have Lake Huron, and just a little bit to the other side is Saginaw Bay. Mm-hmm. So we've been out of there since about 1980. We started out with just downrigger releases for salmon fishing, and then the planer board come about 92 or 93. And it's just from then on, it's been going big since then.
Well, now you guys have been in the walleye end of tournament fishing for a long, long time, and other stuff on the big lakes up there. But crappie is actually even pretty new to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, since about 2013, when Tommy Scarless and Kyle Steinfeld won the Crappie Masters Championship on Grenada, pulling planer boards and crankbaits, and it opened up a whole bunch of eyes to a different technique, and it's just like anything else. And the same with the catfish. And you're not going to throw all your other stuff away and strictly use planer boards and our weight systems and that. It's another tool to have in the boat for the day that's what they want, and it pays off. A nice thing with planer boards and all of our products, as long as you don't lose them, they last a long time, so you get a set of them, you put them in the boat the day you need them, you pull them out, and you're going to be good to go with them. And they look kind of intimidating to begin with, but once you start playing with them and just get it in the water and put it out, it's pretty simple to learn it. There's a couple tricks to it, but you can come along it pretty good after a few hours of fishing with them.
Well, and I've told people ever since I started doing planer boards, and Doc's been doing them a lot longer than I have, but if you buy a quality product and spend a couple bucks extra, you only got to do it once unless you lose them. And I'm a believer in that, and I've been doing some stuff with your boards here lately, and they are amazingly well made, and they do exactly what we need them to do in the catfish industry. Not that some of the other boards don't do, but I was really impressed with them, and the fact that they're so easily adjustable in so many different ways, it makes it a really great product.
Well, I appreciate it. We've been working hard at it. We're not the cheapest one out there, but we strive to be the best quality. Everything we do is geared towards the top quality because it is a good investment, and we build them to last. We've got guys that have been walleye fishing with them or just fishing with them, and there's some of our first version of the boards that we did 20 years ago. We just gotta. And we'll rebuild them. We'll do a lot of the tournaments when we get to where there's a lot of people using them. They've got repair kits that go around, which you can replace the foam, or if somebody loses a screw, give them a new screw, or some of the original boards had a metal bracket on them. And now the board, they have a nice, you know, plastic bracket that doesn't bend. This bracket's actually tougher than the metal bracket because you can run over it with a car and it's still fine. But
Right.
So we'll update the boards for them, and you can get a lot of life out of them, and especially when you're fishing in the rivers and in the lakes. It's even if one does come off the line, if you forget to put the line behind the pin in the release and it comes off the line, it isn't that hard. You just go around, they float, you go around and go back and get it.
No, Lyle knows about that.
Right. And Lyle does know about that.
We still do
Lyle
it.
wasn't smart enough to figure out there was a pin on them. That's exactly right. But, you know, if you get them behind there and after talking with Robert and some of the other guys that had used them, if you put a loop in there, you're not ever going to pull them off. You just ain't going. You can't make them come off.
Right.
No.
It's like anything else and any other product, even in the same line. There's tricks and things, learning curves that you have to do, but they're really not that hard to operate. And I build rods for years, and guys want 10-foot rods so they can get further out the side of the boat. And I'm thinking, why would you do that when you drop a board out? You can put one out behind the boat and one out to the side at 20 or 25, 30 feet, and then another out at 40 to 60 feet. And you cover twice as much water. You're presenting your bait in front of all them other fish that you'd have to make 2 or 3 trips to do. So it just makes sense to me to do it.
Yeah. Well, and especially say you're anchored up in a river and you're sitting in one spot. Now, instead of having that 10-foot rod, that bait's going to be 10 feet from the boat. That's where it's always going to be. Now you put a board, exactly, you can put it out 10 feet. If you don't get anything, you can feather it out a few more feet, and you can just work that board back and forth until you figure out where the fish want to be. I mean, you can, if they're 100 feet out to the side, you just keep putting line out, and it'll take it out to the side for you. You know, the biggest thing to think about them is they're just a directional bobber. You use them like a bobber, except it's going out to the side instead of just down with the current and behind the boat.
And they're deadly.
That's correct. Yeah.
Structure. The boards are absolutely deadly when you're fishing structure and you want it to get out there and you want it to hover. Mm-hmm. You know, it may take you a few times to figure out how deep the water is and stuff where, you know, the board will carry it. But yeah, they're just, you know, I've been using them for years, and I'm really excited about getting your boards and trying them out. So,
well, we was talking before we started the show that we was up there in that hot current on the Mississippi River in near flood conditions. They call it moderate range, or it's not the major flood, but it's not just, you know, above average. It was pretty hot. And you could put them boards out to the side of that kind of current, and it would take them out as far as you got enough line to go. You know, whatever you felt comfortable with. If your comfort range was 10 foot, it'd do that. If your comfort range was 100 feet or 300 feet, it would do that. So, and you could do it at anchor, and a lot of times you can cast them out as far as you go, and we've used as much as 24 ounces of weight on the Mississippi River and Missouri River, and when these heavy conditions hurt with current, and they always end up right behind your boat. It doesn't matter. Yep. You can throw them out to the side all you want to, but eventually, if you don't get hit, they're going to end up behind the boat. With a board, you put them out. I usually just cast mine out and then hook the board on and let it take it on over there, because that way you know you're down and it's behind the board a little bit. But when you get it over there, unless the current quits, and it's not going to, then you just stay over there where you want to be to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a question. Really well. Thomas Heath wants to know, will your boards handle a 4 to 6 ounce lead and a 4 to 6 inch shad upriver on the Mississippi River?
Yeah, well, we've got 2 sizes of board. Well, for the catfish and stuff, we've got a little mini one that we use for crappie, the Awesome Crappie board. But the main 2 boards is our medium-sized board. This is our OR12 board, and that's always been our most popular, the walleye board and salmon fish and stuff. And it's it's a decent sized board. This will haul probably 4 ounces, and in the faster current, it'll haul a little more weight. If you really want to pull stuff, this is our SST Pro Mag board, and I'll put the both up. These are, see if we can do this. I got them on top of each other, and that'll give you the big difference between the 2. They're a lot thicker. There's a lot more foam in these Pro Mag boards, and we tested it originally we designed them for the salmon industry, and they're hauling. We used to use stuff that's copper line. It's twisted copper. It's basically the same as electrical wire that's got the insulation stripped off, and it's weighted line. And we'll put 600 feet of this stuff out there to get our baits down 90 feet or so deep, just with all this line. But you got a mile of line behind you, but that's almost 2 pounds of line when you got all that out. And these boards will pull it out to the side no problem with that much weight. So they can haul a lot of weight, and it depends. Now, if you're just running it real slow, 0.4 of a mile an hour, the board is probably going to be sitting there like just about like a bobber, because it needs that much weight. You need a little bit more speed to get it going, but it's doable. It's just, and with us, we haven't spent a whole lot of time under a mile an hour with them. We're just starting to get into some of the slower speeds that you guys are doing with them, and they're going to take a little tweaking, but we're getting it to work. So it's just a little bit of a trial and error on a lot of our parts.
Yeah. Now, are the releases adjustable on those?
They are. There's the snapper release that comes on the Pro Mag board. We call it the snapper release, and you can see it's this black release here. And then if you look on the bottom, right here, there's a screw.
Okay.
That screw is the tension, so you just clip it, and like this release, you can set it 2 different ways. If you pinch it forward, that's locked in, and there's a pin right here that fits into a hole that'll keep the line from coming off of the release. So that's the setup like this. You catch a fish, you reel the whole board to the boat, you reach up, you flip it up with your thumb, you take the line off of the back release, and you put the board in the boat. The other way you can do it is if you take this release, and instead of forward, you flip that backwards. Now the line can come out this way. So if you get a fish, what we call is you trip it. So you give the rod a little, you set it a little shallower, you set it just deep enough so it doesn't pop off on its own.
Yeah.
And then if you get a fish on, you give the rod a little pop, and this board will go down backwards, and this red release will keep it in place on the line. So you don't have to worry about it sliding down to the fish and beating on the fish when you're trying to bring it in. And then you bring it in backwards.
So the red release has got a pin in it. They just slide the line behind it.
Yep, there's a pin right in the center of the pad. I don't know, it might be hard to see here, but but there is a pin right in the center of the pad. And with that one, you open it up and push the line all the way back. There's 2 other pins to keep the line from going back too far. So just open it up and push the line back and make sure it's behind the pin. And sometimes you forget. I forget. We were fishing the other day, and when I popped the board, and there it goes floating, and it's because I didn't put the line behind the pin. It's not working itself around that pin.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing, if you're using like a braided line, you want to wrap the line around the release, because what happens is that braid is real abrasive and it's slippery, and these pads can only hold so much. And with that slippery line, that'll tend to slip through that release, and eventually it'll cut that little pin in the center off, and it'll mess with your pad. So what I do is I'll put the line in like normal, and then I wrap it around one of the jaws. So it's like through, so it's through, and it loops around and it comes back through. And when it's wrapped through there, that won't let it slide down through the braid. So if anytime you're putting braid on this red release, you want to loop it like that, and that'll keep it from slipping. That'll keep it nice and snug.
Gotcha. And
with this release, with the snapper release, you just clamp it. You don't have to worry about twisting anything. You just clamp it in and it'll hold it. So, but yeah, like I said, it's pretty simple. There's some adjustments, and at the start, it's like anything else. It looks like there's a whole lot of stuff, but once you break it down to a few things, it's just a day's fishing out there. We could take people in an hour, and they're bringing boards around, bringing the outside board in and around the inside boards, and shuffling them and doing all kinds of fun stuff with them. So it's just having the confidence to go out and do it. The best way to do it is when you get them, leave everything but your planer board stuff at home for a day, so you're forced to fish with planer boards, because it's like any other technique. If you're out there and you're kind of struggling with something new, it's always our tendency to want to go back to what we know, what we're doing with, and you give them an hour and, oh, I'm not catching fish, and you throw that away, and you just put out your normal stuff, and so you gotta learn it. But a day of fishing with them, it should get you a long ways on the curve.
Good deal.
We have a chewer, Doc.
Oh,
We have to take shoes away from her, or you'll end up without any.
Oh boy, that's something I never had with both the two labs I've owned. I never had a chewer. Luke doesn't. I mean, we got him ducks and chicken and stuff like that, and I mean he carries them around, but he does not chew on anything.
My lab was probably 2 before I quit chewing.
That's about right. And I've never had one that wasn't a chewer, but so I'm used to it. But you just make them stop but yeah, you're right. 1.5, 2 years old is usually about the time that they quit.
Yeah.
Well, Doc, do you have some more questions for Nick about his stuff?
No, I've got years of using boards, and I really like using the boards. I mean, there's nothing more fantastic than watching a board just stop, and then all of a sudden you see it going the wrong way, and you know that's generally that's a big cat that's on it when it just kind of sits there and it hesitates, and you kind of wonder what's going on with that board, and then when it starts going the other way, so it's fun. I really like using them.
I do too, and when those boards are missing and you can't see them and they're under the water for any extended period of time, you better get on the stick here because there's something happening that you're going to want to be involved with.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of things that I would like to ask you about, Nick. I know that you have some weight systems. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
We've got a couple different ones. Our newest one is what we call it's a tadpole. This is our Magnum tadpole, so I can get it so we can see it here.
Yeah.
And the way this works.
There you go.
And the way this works is it's got this design on it. This part here, that's a snap swivel, and that goes to your rod. And then what you've got here, and this is free to slide on this arm. And then this snap swivel off the back goes to your bait. So run a 5-6 foot leader, or however you want your leader off the back, your bait from it. And this will dive down to, this is a Magnum. This is our biggest one. It's almost 4 ounces, or a little over 4 ounces maybe. So you send it down, and then when you get a fish on, it trips, and the snap swivel goes to the front. So now you just have the weight, and you're not fighting the diving, the planing, the diving of the tadpole. So then it just trips in line when you get a fish pulling on the way back. And
now, how many different sizes do you have of that?
We've got 4 sizes. We've got a 1 and a 2. Our 1 and 2 are our most popular ones for the shallower stuff, under 30, 40 foot of water. If you have light baits behind it, because if you put too heavy of a bait behind it, it's going to want to trip the tadpole. Whereas this Magnum, you can put a pretty decent sized bait behind it, and it'll still stay set for you. And then there's the 1 and 2, and then there's a 3 in this Magnum. And the 1 and 2 are just about 1.25 ounces and 1.25 ounces. And then the 3 in the mag get up to about 3 and 4 ounces. But they'll go, and there's dive charts from the precision trolling data charts on our website, offshoretackle.com, and it'll give you an idea on speed and how deep they'll go. This Magnum at 2.5 miles an hour, it'll get down 60, 65 feet if you want it to. And slow speeds, this thing will go right down. Yeah.
They don't mess around. They go right on down, and they'll take your bait down there and hold it. And if you're on a smooth bottom, you can feel them bumping the bottom. So they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yep. And then they're fun. Yeah. We've been finding different uses for them. And the nice thing is, since they have that actual dive, like how a crankbait dives, they don't wobble that much. They do a little bit of searching. That front end will load up, and it'll kind of roam around a little bit this way and that way, but it's not some crazy action to it. But since they do have that dive, you can get a nice dive chart on them. So you could say, I want to go 18 feet down, and the chart says, okay, you got to set it back 37 feet. And you put it at 37 feet, you're going to be 18 feet down. Whereas the weight, and we've got what's called a snap weight. And this is where the red release with the pin in it started out.
Okay.
Because we run anywhere from 3/4 to 3 ounce weight. So you guys use a lot heavier. Here's an 8 ounce weight on this one. And it's the same thing. You just pinch, you open it up, you pinch it on the line, and as long as the line's behind the pin again, that'll stay right on your line. And then it'll take you right down. So you can, if you want 30 feet of line out, before you put a weight on, you can put any kind of lead length you want and clip that on the line, and you're good to go. And the same thing though, if you're doing that with braids, you want to wrap the line on it so it won't slide down. It won't slide down the line.
Oh, Lyle, I can see us practicing a lot of new stuff on the Mississippi River.
Yeah, me too. And I see him talk about that clip like that with that weight on it, and I've already got a whole different thing in mind for that. I'm thinking back balancing weights.
Oh yeah.
You know, you could tie that, you clip that right onto your line and back bottom bounce, and if I'm in heavy current, you know.
As long as you don't have a lot of snags and stuff on the bottom to hook up on, you know, because that'll, like I said, that'll, other than a long pencil style weight, it's a little more stuff for it to grab. But if you got an open bottom, it can, and we've run up to 1 pound balls with this release on there, and that'll hold it on the line. So it will probably hold more than that. But the key is
Doc and I have decided that if you don't snag up and lose a little bit of stuff once in a while, you're probably not where them catfish want to be.
Exactly.
That's true too. Yep.
But yeah, you're going to lose some stuff, and I will tell the viewers this, that the Dragon rig that Larry Muse told us all about and Steve Douglas named and all this stuff, that is a really good way to pull boards if you're in a lot of trees, rocks, stuff where you're getting hung up with weights and different things. Those things are amazing how they'll go over different stuff. And I know there's guys have been filling up shoelaces with lead and shot and different things. And there's several ways to design them, but the idea is to get it to go over and it won't get hung. And those work really well. And but on the Lake of the Ozarks, where I've been doing all of the stuff with the boards because of all the high water, you don't really have to have too much of that. It's not that there's not some structure in there, because there is, but with the heavy boat traffic, if the boat traffic's real heavy and the waves are real big, we go in the coves, you go in there and catch all them medium, small sized fish you want. You just one right after another, and then boards will get out there and they start dancing. You reel your fish in, you put it back out and go again. It's so much fun. I can't think of a better way to get a beginner or someone, a kid, someone just starting out in the sport, to get them interested in, because you're busy all the time. You're just putting that bait in front of so many more fish than you would if you was just anchored and casting.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we were actually fishing a crappie tournament a couple of years ago at Lake of the Ozarks, and one of our, I think it's our last year's paper. We put out a newspaper every year that has articles about our products and different ways of using it and good fishing tips and techniques and stuff. But on the cover of it is my dad. We caught about a 30-pound catfish on a flicker shad, pulling for crappie behind the planer board out there. So there's definitely some nice fish out there.
Now, what is a flicker shad?
It's just a crankbait. It's Berkeley makes them.
Okay.
We use them for crappies a lot, and it's just a little shad sized crankbait, but it's only 3 inches long, 2.5 inches long, a little thing. And this big old catfish got a hold of it, and
I bet he made that board dance.
oh man, yeah, that was. We knew right away what we had on there, and it wasn't no crappie doing that.
Yeah,
that's right. And them crappie are fun and they're good eating, but. Once you get a hold of one of these good ones, it's hard to go back to those small fish. It's not that I still don't enjoy it, because I do, but there's, even a 10 or 12 pound catfish is more than most people realize how much fun that really is.
Yeah, I grew up salmon fishing on Lake Huron, and we had big, 25, 30 pound kings we'd fight when I was younger, and it's the same thing, there's nothing like that big fish on the end of the line, and especially as catfish. I mean, it's, for us, a 30-pound fish was big, and catfish, you're just kind of getting warmed up at 30 pounds. There's been looking at some of these monsters in these tournaments, and man,
We had a guy, a friend of ours, Chuck's buddy that he fished with, caught over 100-pound one down in Alabama in a small river last week, and we've been trying to get him on with us to do a little short interview. And Chuck knows him really well. I thought it'd be nice if Chuck and him could get in here together, but our schedules just keep conflicting to where it hasn't been able to work out. But we'll get him in here. But the Coosa River is not a very big river system down there, and to put 100+ pound fish in the boat on a small river like that, that has to be a great story to be heard.
Oh, yeah, that's the haul just to get them over the side of the boat after you reel them in.
Absolutely, you know, and there's a lot of things. You know, I have shoulder problems. Cindy has knee problems. We fish together nearly every time we go out. I can't remember the last time we wasn't. And 50 or 60 is a pretty good load for us, especially if we don't get it in a net. But usually it takes both of us to get it in a boat. So 100 is going to work us, and I might just have to hold it in the net and call Doc and say, "Hey, bud, come on over here and help me get this thing in a boat."
Yeah.
But whatever we got to do, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
You know.
So, Nick, how much are you anticipating catfishing industry going towards the planer board aspect of things? And from my perspective, it's just another arsenal that most people should be interested in.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty exciting to look at. It's another, you know, the industry, like some other ones, the industry is getting to be big and known, and it's growing. And, you know, the tournaments that are out there, the tournaments are starting to get bigger, and there's a lot more publicity going on with it. And it's interesting. The more people I talk to, there's more of a place for these planer boards in it. There's a lot of different areas where they're going to work, and there's some, you know, some that won't. I mean, there's half of the walleye tournaments they don't use planer boards for either. So there's a time where you use them and a time you don't. But it's going to be one of those things that, you know, serious fishermen are in. So we're dependent on your little area, like Lake of the Ozarks and places like that. There's some prime places for them. So it's going to be fun to see where it goes in the next few years.
I think so too. And you know, we took a lady out on our Fishing for Freedom tournament over the weekend, and she is, her and her husband mostly bass fishing. He never took her catfishing. She just wanted to go out, and she said that everybody talks about catfishing being boring. You just sit there and wait for the fish to bite. Well, with planer boards and back bottom bouncing and the new techniques that are being brought into the sport, it's not like that, and it's not a lazy way to fish. You actually have to work to keep that trolling motor headed in the right direction, so you stay on the depth of water that you want to be on, the contour line, however you want to put it. If you're back bottom bouncing, it's the same thing. If you get offline, you're out of where the fish are. So it's actually work, and you gotta spend some time to get all of it figured out. But the reward of it is just amazing.
Yeah, well, it's fun, and there's a lot of excitement watching the boards, and you know, the biggest thing is you got to get used to watching the planer board and not the rod tip. So once you start watching the planer board, but I mean, it's exciting to see the board take off, or you know, catfish haul it right underwater and disappear on you. So
they do.
It's a neat way to do it, and there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of stuff to do with it, and like I said, it's more than just putting some bait on it and sending it out to the side and driving around. There's a lot of technique.
Well, that's right.
Go ahead.
With catfishing, one day you may find fish working at such a range that you can run them boards out 20 or 30 feet on the first board and 40, 50 feet out the second board. The next day, you may need to run them out 60 or 70 feet to get in the same water column that those fish are wanting to feed in, and you might want to suspend them up off the bottom. I know I run a lot of floats and stuff to keep the baits up off the bottom so they're not constantly just dragging. But there's so many variables and so much stuff you can do with planer boards that people don't even realize is possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the excitement factor even goes up tenfold when you're running them at night.
Oh yeah!
Because, oh wow, that just, you know, and now we've got these whisker sticks, LED lights. You know, I've got my boards are drilled out so that now I can just take and put that stick on the front, and then take a wire tie and tie it down, and it's ready to go. So, and there's nothing more exciting when you see the board that's on the left side, which is red, and it starts going across the back of the boat headed towards the other one that's green. So, you know, you got a good one on. So
I'm pretty sure. Robert would like to know if you're going to be at the Catfish Conference this year, Nick.
Yeah, I sure plan to. We gotta get signed up and everything, but we're definitely wanting to be a part of that. We started a little late last year and didn't get time to get into it, but yep, Catfish Conference, and we're also doing the Mississippi River Monster Tournament. So we'll be down there at the Pyramid at Bass Pro Shops hanging out with everybody. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be a good time.
Absolutely. You know, that's both great events. We make both of them. The Catfish Conference is just amazing thing of what those guys have put together, Steve, and all the Jeff Jones and all them guys have worked so hard to make this a huge event. Hervé works his year round on that thing, and you know, it's just a major event. Standing room only sometimes, but it's worth everything, and everybody that has any kind of a product in the industry is pretty much there. And then Mississippi River Monsters, well, at the Pyramid, that everything. It's just a beautiful place to be. Great times. And Leslie and all those, George and all of them, they work very hard to make that a really nice event. It is. It's very nice. And we really had a good time down there last year.
Yes, yeah, well, we're excited.
Yeah, I'm sure, and we'll be down there. We'll all get together, and we'll get a show down there and get everybody involved with it. It'd be a ton of fun. Can you tell us about your Tattletale flag system that's on these boards?
That's on the smaller one, on the OR12, and the way that works is it's a spring-loaded flag. So you set it up, and it's for smaller fish or when you're hauling lighter weights. We do have an adjustment on the flag that you can adjust it, and I'll show you that here in a second. And basically what happens is you set your line up, you put it out, you set the board like normal, you put your line in the front part and the clip here, and you snap it down on the front, and then there's a release out the back, and then you put a little slack line between the two releases, and then when you get a fish on, that extra weight pulls that flag down. So now you know there's a fish on it, and the flag's down, there's a fish, there's something on it. You know, whether it's a weed or something's dragging on it. A lot of times we'll do things like if we're using a crankbait, we'll set it so it's got a little bit of pressure on it, and then if you get a weed on it where it's not pulling so hard, the flag will stand up. But the key with these flags is you got to learn to trust the flag. If you're out there and you're looking at the flag sitting there doing that and say, I don't know, is there a fish or do we want to reel all that in? If the flag doesn't look right, you bring it in and check it, because 9 times out of 10, something is going to be missed with it, whether it's a fish hanging onto it or, you know, just a weed or something worth checking.
Oh, man.
The way it works is there's a little, the front end of it is there's a spring that goes from the front of the board to the flag. And this flag, we just come out with this new design for this year, which we added holes on the flag. So now you can really get the strength of the pull up by putting that spring all the way on the top and on the bottom. And I've hauled some pretty heavy weights, but you can pull pretty heavy weights with this board. I'd say you could probably pull 6 ounces or so with this board and the flag stay up. So there's a lot of tension on there. And then the wire just goes through the back. And this is an add-on to the board. When you buy the board right now out of the package, they come with this. They come with the orange release on the front, which is the same tension as the red one, but it doesn't have the pin in the middle of it. And you know, a lot of people like to upgrade that to the snapper release. This is the way that most of the walleye fishing and the majority of the people that are buying the board can use it just like this out of the package. We like to set options up. Everybody, you talk to 10 different people in there, they've all got this little different way they like to run the board. So you kind of find out what you like to do the best. But they come like this. The tattle flag is separate. There's an economy kit, we call it now, that's just got the wire and the spring and the stuff to make the tattle flag kit, and it's like $10 at the store extra.
Wow.
But it gets you. It's the spring and everything to do it. It's pretty simple to hook up.
Very simple.
Main thing when you hook them up, you want to make sure that when there's no flag on it, you want the flag to be loose. If you make the flag too tight, it's not going to be able to go down. So you want to make sure when you hook them up, the flag is on there, so it can freely go up and down as it wants. But it's fun. I mean, the neat thing with this is if you get into smaller fish, sometimes you'll get a fish without the flag and the board just goes back, and that's how you tell there's a fish on it without the flag. But what happens if you're in a place where you're getting smaller fish, sometimes you just see that flag go down and the board doesn't move. And especially when you're new to using planer boards, it takes quite an eye to get to read your boards and see what's running different. Well, this really takes the learning curve out of it. And you can take family out, you can take kids out. I mean, my 6-year-old son can look at that flag going down and say, Daddy, we got a fish on. It doesn't take a lot to know something's going on. So it adds the fun to it. Everybody can get involved and say, hey, there's a fish. And it just adds a nice little element. And again, it just shortens the learning curve on it so much. And we're at the point where I'm running tattle flags on everything I can possibly run them on now. So
now, do you offer the tattletale for the bigger boards too?
We don't. No, most of the time, because by the time, usually the fish that you're catching with them, if you're going to go with the bigger board, are going to pull it back. And we haven't played around with it too much yet. It's not to say that we're not going to have anything, but right now it's just the big board on its own right now.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Robert Nasal Road would like to know if you can use those from the shore, and I say yes, because if you've got the right board, it will take them right out to the middle or further past where you want to be, and they'll just sit there and work for you. I think that's a great idea for a bank fisherman to have a board or two.
Yep, we've had quite a few guys. A lot of guys do that steelhead fishing up by us, and up in the northern Ohio and along Lake Erie and the streams and stuff like that. They'll fish steelhead, and instead of just casting out and you got your spinner or whatever bait you're using that goes by that hole where they're at for a couple seconds, they just put the planer board out and you feed it right there, and you can let that bait sit right in front of them. And it's as long as there's current, if there's water moving out, it's going to go out to the side, whether you're in a boat or on the bank. Doesn't matter.
Right.
That's pretty exciting. Now it's going to look like Star Wars behind my boat. I'm going to be fishing at night. I'm going to put that whisker stick. I'm going to put that LED up on that flag, and it's just going to whoop, whoop. That's going to be cool. Everybody's they're going to. And I told Robert about this. I said the one time I had a bunch of boats and they were kind of in my way. And it was at night. So I put a red one out one side. I put a green one out the other side. I cleared every boat in the lake that was in front of me because they thought about a 50-foot cruiser was coming down through there. So, that'll be pretty cool to see those at night. That's
absolutely.
Cool.
Southwest Rider Outdoors says they need at least 9 ounces of weight over 60 foot of water in the Mississippi River. That's not a problem if you get the SSTs. That's not a problem. They'll more than withhold the 9 ounces is nothing to these guys. They will take big weights, big baits, and you'll be very pleased with what they do. They just work so really well.
Yeah.
Well, and there's some adjustments you can do to them. Once you get out of them and start using them, once you get comfortable with just the mechanics of setting the board, you can play around with the weight a little bit. And we've got in this channel that the channel is open on the weight. So, and all you need to do is you just pop this screw out. What I'll do is I'll take the screw out and then make a little mark on the weight right where the screw hole is at. Mm-hmm. And then I'll relocate it all the way forward, put it back in the board and see, okay, well, the mark's right here. And then I'll just kind of eyeball a hole and then just drill through the plastic. Don't try drilling through that weight. It's a real hard weight, and it's hard to drill through unless you've got a high-speed drill press. So you just drill a hole in the plastic, and then you can pop it out and play with it in different angles along the board, along the bottom here. There is a weight behind the foam as well, just wedged in there. And I was talking with Chris Souders the other day, and what he was doing, he was pulling real slow, 0.4 of a mile an hour, just basically just real slow with them and heavier weights. and he actually took that weight out, and so there was more weight straight on the bottom of it, and that helped him stand up a little bit, because these are really made originally for going at 2 miles an hour for faster stuff. So it's like anything else. There's a little different application, so we got to find a few different ways of how we want to run them and set them, but they're adaptable to a whole bunch of things. There's a couple different holes here for where you would set the back release, and that'll adjust how it rides in the water. The key is you want them to ride as nose high as you can run them. It's because that way, if they're running up nose high, you don't have to worry about them taking off and diving on you. And a lot of times this board here, it'll be running up high enough. This whole curved part of the nose is barely even in the water. And it's just, it's still going out to the side. It may look a little funny sitting up like that, but it's still going out to the side. But that'll keep it from taking off, or when you got a fish on, it keeps it from diving nose first on you.
Well, I will mention this. I changed the weights in my boards and moved the weight forward because I thought I wanted them to ride level. And when you do that, they do ride level. And I didn't notice any difference on whether they went further out, faster or slower, one way or the other. But I will mention this, that when they're level in the water like that, they're a lot harder to see than they are with that front end up. And these old eyes need all the help I can get. And when they set up in there, and they're not, stand up like this, they're basically at an angle like this as you're pulling them through the water. They are a whole lot easier to see like that than they are when they're level, because when they're level, they're only about this much of it out of the water. You get that 60 feet or so out to the side of your boat. It's not. And one of the other things that is extremely helpful, it's not something you have to do, but if you go make a pull down on a lake or something, or a river, whatever you're fishing, and you want to get right back to that same area you was at, of course, you're going to use your electronics to put you on the same part of the board where you're at, or on the river or water system that you're at. But if you have, what am I trying to say here, them line counter reels, it makes a world of difference, because you can put your trolling motor on your contour line and pull the same area, and then you can go out if you're at 40 feet or 50 feet or whatever it is, and you can just let that line out till you're at that spot, and you're going to be really close to the same spot that you've been catching fish on your first pull, and you can go back through there and catch the fish that you missed.
Yeah, well, and repeatability is the key. That's where it's nice with this, whether it's the snap weights or whatever you're using, to being able to get accurately back where you're at. And they make if you don't have the line counter rods, a lot of times what we'll tell you, if you take a spot on your corner of your boat as a starting spot, and then go 10 feet up from that spot and put like a piece of tape or a black tape or a mark on the side there, so okay, you put your rod tip there, and then you just kind of three spool it up to that spot. So there's 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, and that's a crude way of doing it, but it'll work if you don't have the line counter reels. But the line counters definitely help get things back to where it needs to be. And I can see using them even for whether you're planer boards or not, anywhere you're changing your distances behind the boat. If you guys are fishing bottom most of the time, it's a little not quite as big, but we fish a lot of suspended baits and a lot of suspended fish, and line counters are key for doing that.
Sure. Now, another thing that I'm going to tell these guys that are wanting to try planer boards out, you can let your line out with your bait on it till it hits the bottom, give yourself a little slack, tie the board on, and just let it free spool till you take it out as far as you want to go. And that works very well. What I do is I cast my bait out and let it hit the bottom, and then I get me some slack, tie the board on, and then it's down away from the boat, so you don't have any shadows, a lot less noise, and then I let the board out as far as I want to go before I put the next one out. I like doing it that way. It seems to get the bait out faster than if you do just let it down. And then again, if you're suspended baits, you want to let it down so you know how far you are. But when I don't, I just want it away from the boat. And the further behind the boat, the less noise, less shadows, all that stuff. on the rivers, I don't have to worry about shadows because it's so murky and muddy and stuff that so much noise with the current. But in these lakes, it's not like that, is it, Doc?
No.
And they do see shadows, and they do hear noises in boats that they would not hear on river systems.
Well, and when you're using the planer board, you're just opening up a hole. You know, you can be. I know when I'm dragging baits, I've got right now. If I'm not running planer board, we run 4 lines, so there's 2 per person, and you run like that. But when you add the planer boards, then you can go out an additional 20, 30 feet. And a lot of times, especially on a big boat like mine, when it goes over top of a fish, they blow out from underneath of it. And then they circle back around, and then there's that planer board that's right there.
That's correct.
Presenting the bait to them.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is for sure. I really do enjoy them very much. They are a lot of fun, and for the guys and not just guys, but anyone that thinks that catfishing is just sitting there waiting for the fish to bite, that is definitely not the case, because we're coming into the planer board era of catfishing as we did the bump back, bottom bouncing, and bumping, whatever you want to call it. It is changing the way that we put fish in a boat. And there's a lot of variables, a lot of different things you can do, but the more things you try, and what works for us may not work for you. You may have to adjust the way we do it or try something altogether different. But once you figure out what works for you and you got confidence, it's going to work from now on.
Yeah. Well, and you know, 25, 30 years ago, we waited on the catfish to come to us. Nowadays, we go after the catfish. We're looking for the active feeders.
We're on offense now where we used to always be on defense.
Yeah, and you can cover a lot of water with these boards, you know, like I said.
Oh, yeah.
You really can. You know, and with that, you guys talking about pulling boards at 2 and 3 mile an hour, man, you really cover a lot of water that way. Most of the time we're at a half mile an hour or less, or a little over. But yeah, if you're pulling them at 2 mile an hour, you cover a lot of water.
Oh yeah, we can cover a cove in about one trip down the cove and 1 trip out the cove, and we pretty much have that whole cove covered.
How many rods are you running doing that, Nick?
The crappie fishing will run 8 rods. We'll run 4 boards out a side, or a lot of times we'll run 3 boards out each side, and then 2 off the corners, which we call a dead rod, without a board on it. And that'll be, a lot of times we'll run a tadpole and a crankbait, or a tadpole and jigs, and we'll use that to adjust the depth. So we'll kind of find out where the depth they want it, because it's easy to crank them up and let them out as we're trolling. And once we start hitting at a certain depth, sometimes we'll put them out on the planer boards at the same depth. That stops from having to change the reel and the planer boards back and forth and to change them. But yeah, we've seen guys run up to, I think probably 8 or 9 out one side was the most I've seen. I don't want to mess with that, but I've seen 8 or 9 out one side of the boat. But that's a recipe for disaster, if you ask me.
Wow.
Well, you know, Doc, I can't imagine a 40 or 50 pound blue hitting that inside rod and just heading across that lake and taking them all out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You might as well get the pocket knife out and start whacking that line.
But I would say, anybody starting out, I would suggest just getting a right and a left, or at least just start out with using the left, right, and the left. Get used to setting the board, putting it out, bringing it back in. Once you get comfortable with that, then you can introduce the next ones on inside, because then you've got if you've got a fish on the outside board and you've got boards on the inside, you either have to reel the rest of the boards that are between the fish and the boat so you don't tangle them up, or you have to, there's a couple different ways, which we'll do is we'll set the board up so it trips, so that the release comes off the front part of the board. It'll be, the board is going out like that, and then it'll trip. So we pull the line off the board, and the board flips around backwards, and it stops planing. So then it goes out to the side and out to the back of the boats, and then you can bring it straight up the back. So it'll go around our boards, our lines that are on the inside, as long as you're running, fairly short leads, so you don't have a lot of stuff going up high. But if you're fishing on the bottom with heavy weights, that line's going to have a pretty good angle going down. So you can bring them around and then bring it in the water, bring it in the boat that way, and then just take the line off. And same thing, we'll run 4 boards out aside and get a fish on the 3rd board out and never touch the other boards. We pop the board, it flips back, goes out of the spread, and we bring it right up the center. And when we go to set it, we just do the same thing. We'll put the bait out, put the board on the line, and then we'll just free spool it, let it float back, say, 60, 70 feet or however far back you think you need to get it to pull up into the line and away from the other baits, and there it goes. So there's some videos on our YouTube on how to do that kind of stuff too. But that's stuff after you're really comfortable with a board or 2 out each side, then you can start playing around with that. But
yeah.
I agree. I think it's a great idea for people that's not used one before to start out with 1 per side, and then as they get more comfortable with them, because the last thing you want to do is spend your money and get a set of boards and try to put too many out right off the bat, and then you're aggravated when you're tangled up or if something doesn't go right. Get comfortable with using 1 out to the side, then graduate up to the 2nd or 3rd set and go from there, because it's so productive that you want to make sure that you're comfortable with doing it and that you enjoy it, because you will put more fish in the boat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I know last year I fished a tournament with my grandkids, and I ran four planer boards and then 2 draggers right out the back, and the girls they knew how to watch those boards. And they knew when the fish were on the boards. So, even the kids, you can teach them. They like watching that board stop and then start moving the wrong way. So,
just a blast. And like I say, someone beginning out the sport, or kids, or anybody that it's just an exciting way to fish, and the more fun you have, and the more excitement it is for someone starting out or a youngster that gets bored easier quickly. This is something that'll keep their attention span for a lot longer period of time, and then we got to bring more people in the sport. So this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, and within a matter of minutes, I talked to the girls how to get them boards off of the thing, and it got to the point where I didn't even have to fool with the boards. All I had to do is get them out there.
Well, that's fun, and it adds a good teamwork aspect into it too. The person cranking the board in, everybody kind of works together to pull the boards off the line and net the fish, and it really gets everybody involved.
Yeah, and with kids, their attention span's pretty limited. So the boards make it. They think they're pretty cool watching them boards just flip way out to the side of the boat.
Yep.
Well, let's face it, they could be playing video games. So every time you take them and put them in a boat and take them fishing, it's just one video game you beat them guys out of.
Yep, that's for sure.
So it's a great thing. Well, Nick, thank you so much for helping us out on the show tonight. I hope everybody, I hope we got all their questions answered, and I hope they enjoyed you being on the show with us, because I know I really did, and you answered a lot of questions that I had, and it's just a fun way to do it. And can you tell these people how they can get your product or get a hold of you if they have questions or something?
We're available at a lot of different retailers. Not a little south, it's a little harder, but website, online stuff. There's a lot of online retailers. If you search for offshore tackle, there's our website, offshoretackle.com. You can order direct from us. The biggest thing that I'd like to mention is that the last few years we've been a U.S. company, made here in the U.S. for the whole time. There's always been, and recently we've had a few companies go out and make copies of the releases, and they look the same on paper and and online, but for the people that haven't used them, there's a difference. So if you're going to buy these little red releases and buy these, if you're looking for offshore tackle products, make sure that it's from a reputable place and it's you're getting offshore tackle stuff. They do a lot of stuff on eBay, and they'll use offshore tackle in the header to make it look like it, and it's not an offshore tackle product. So just be sure. As I said, the best way is either our website, and there's a lot of different websites, good tackle websites online and places like that. And if you have any questions, any more questions that we didn't cover, feel free to look us up on our Facebook page. There's my email and contact information is on our website, and that's a lot of. We've had a lot of fun, and like I said, our thing is we've been striving. Our main goal is to be able to keep this stuff made here in the U.S. and keep the jobs going here, and the quality is here. We can't send stuff overseas. It's so hard to control the quality on stuff, and that's our goal. You know, people buy stuff, we want them. You know, like these brackets here. We can take the bracket and you can step on this bracket and flip it around, and you know you're not going to hurt this stuff. So you can
that's amazing right there.
You know, we'll sit here at a show for a weekend. Yeah, I've literally driven this board over with my truck, and it went fishing with it the next day.
Wow.
So you're not going to hurt it. You kick it around, step on it on the boat, and it's, you know, it's going to, and if something happens where usually if you ever do, you really abuse it too bad, usually the rivet goes before the bracket. I don't think I've ever seen a bracket go, but
sure.
But it's just, you know, but that's the thing. And it's not, we don't build it cheap. We build it good, and we build it to last. So
that's exactly right. And I love American-made stuff, as most people do. Some things you can't get that way, but if there is an option, I will always opt for the good stuff. And that's just the difference. And like I say, you pay a couple bucks extra, get the good stuff, and only do it one time instead of buying the other stuff every other time you go out, and you'll be a lot happier in the end.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Nick, thank you so much.
Thanks
there's
for
going to be a
having me.
lot. There's going to be a lot of offshore tackle information coming out here in the next month or so. So people need to pay attention, and all the viewers know that anytime that I can answer a question for them, all they have to do is let Doc or I know. And if we don't know the answer, we'll get a hold of Nick or Bruce or Robert or somebody and find the answer for them if we can. Sometimes. I've been trying to find some information for a guy wanting to bank fish on a certain river over east of us, and nobody will give me that information. I don't know if they're hiding it from me. And they got to know it ain't for me, because I'm not going to go over there and bank fish. If I drive that far, I'm taking a boat. But you know what I mean? But we do our best to try to find as much information for people as we possibly can, and a lot of times we can answer their questions for them. But we really appreciate you being on the show, and thanks so much for joining us. And you know, at some point we may want to get you back on here if you're interested.
Yeah, I had a great time. It's good. It's nice to be able to talk to everybody and get some questions right here, and it's much nicer to be able to show you. It's one of those things, like I said, if you just read an article, it can be a little intimidating, but it's not. You get a couple of them, just go out and leave everything home and just go for a day, and you're going to use planer boards, and then a little bit you're going to get some confidence in them, and you'll be tearing them up in no time.
I will also mention that anybody that has not seen it or has seen it and forgot about it, their little magazine, newspaper, I don't know what you really call that, but it's an offshore tackle.
Offshore release, we call it, but it's a little newspaper, yeah.
It has a wealth of information in that thing, and I've got them. So if anybody wants them, I've given some away to different places where we go, and I will have more to give away. I can't tell you how much information is in there, and you can use it with different products, but it is great. And some of the people that are writing these articles are guys you have heard of. They're not just somebody that made something up. These are the big dogs, and it's a very well published paper to look at, and I enjoy reading them a lot. They're really good.
Well, and they're also available. You go on our website under the articles tab, and each year in the last 10 years probably are the regular PDF version of the paper with the articles and the photos and everything in it. So you can look and read them right online if you don't have one at their local store or available to you, or if you don't have one. So you can read all the articles. You can read the past. I think this is our 22nd edition. So 22 years we've been putting this out, and it's geared towards our products, but it's not. The whole thing isn't just a sales pitch. We try to keep it as much information oriented as we can.
Good deal.
And it is that. It is great information. And like I say, anything that you guys can do that you have questions about, contact us, contact Nick, get on Facebook, get a hold of them. They'll get you the right answer, and I promise you it's a quality product. All right, Nick, thanks a bunch.
All right,
We're going to get on to some more things, and we'll be talking to you really, really soon.
Okay, nice talking with you. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Man, that's a great interview we had with Nick. He's a wealth of information. People really need to take a look at these boards because they are one of the fastest growing aspects of catfishing. A lot of guys say, I'm not going to use them. I'm not going to try this. I don't want to do this or that, but you're missing the boat on some fish that you should probably be catching.
Yeah.
We had a little brain fart over here a while ago. I don't know if we was having dreams or what, Doc, but she barked a couple times and never moved her head. But it is what it is. I have something I want to tell these guys about. All-American Catfish Tournament, June 10th, will be a qualifier for the Catfish Weekly National Championship at Call Point in Kansas City. If you have any questions, get a hold of All-American Catfish Tournaments or Tim Berger, and he can get you the information. He was on our show here a couple weeks ago, and what a great guy. So make sure that you get signed up for the June 10th tournament up at Call Point in Kansas City.
Good deal. I've got Flathead Blues results on Hoover Lake. This was a 3-fish limit. It was a day tournament, and they changed it to 3 fish because it was fairly hot here over the weekend. So I applaud Amanda Johnson for doing that. She is the tournament director. First place, Jake Rice, Austin, and Jerry, 41.10 pounds. Big fish was a 25.20 pound blue. Second, Scott Pranghorn and Amanda Johnson, 27.50. Third, Ron Hughes and David Funk, 27.10 pounds. And fourth, Sean Doppin and Lane, 24.30 pounds. This Saturday coming up on the 10th, Rocky Fork, it's a cat chaser tournament. And it's a night tournament. It is from 8 to 3:30 in the morning. And the doctor will be pulling boards, I guarantee you that. I said, you're going to see the red and green boards out there this weekend. So I am looking forward to it.
That's excellent. Robert with Crusher Marine says if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact him. And I promise you, Robert knows how to use planer boards. He has helped me out so much. It's not, he doesn't just do survivor units now. If you guys don't think Crusher Marine's involved with some other stuff, you might be missing the boat because Robert has helped me with so much stuff on planer boards and different types of line and stuff that I ought to be trying or using. So don't hesitate to give Robert a call. He's a super nice guy, and he got the correct information that will help you out.
Yep.
So, Doc, do we want to spin the wheel or do we want to give the Doc's tip of the night first?
It doesn't matter. I can do the Doc's tip tonight first.
Let's do.
All right. Well, Doc's tips tonight is, now most everybody has, daggone it, boy, I just lost my train of thought there. A vacuum sealer, a food saver vacuum sealer. Well, most everybody does skipjack. You know, I do skipjack, I do shad, do that. But I also do other things. One of those things being is I take my bearings, and this is a set, and they're sealed up. They're greased, they're sealed up. Air, you get that air out of there, and these bad boys will not rust. So if I have a breakdown, you know, I've got a set of bearings that's all ready to go. Hubs. I always have 1 or 2 hubs ready to go. And I've got it vacuum packed right in there. Rust will not get to it. Third and lastly is grease tubes. I pack them in there. A word of caution. When you do a grease tube, as you see it start to collapse down on the, hit the seal button, because if you don't, you're going to have a bag of grease in your hand here that's sealed up, because it'll crush it right down. So just word of caution, and that's Doc's tip for the night.
That's a great tip. I never thought of vacuum sealing bearings, but if you're traveling and as much as we go, that is an outstanding tip. You can have them packed ready to go with a seal. You
grease is in there and they're protected.
Yep, wipe the whatever is in off your race and put a little grease on that, and you're ready to rock. What a great tip that is.
The hub's ready to go. There's no rust to this thing. This one's been vacuumed, and it just sits there. I've got a box in the truck. I just put them in there, and you forget about them until you have a breakdown, and then you got to use them.
That's right, man. That is such a great tip. I'm really impressed with that. That's one of the best tips you've ever given us, and they've all been good, but I'm impressed with that now. That's really cool. Doc, we have this week 68 people that entered our RigRap prize wheel drawing.
I think everybody's kind of liking this wheel, aren't they?
Well, you know, I think they are. I really do. And now what we're going to do is I have all 68 of the people on our random.org, and all we have to do is randomize it, and the person's name that comes up at the top of it is who will give this away. And how many times do you think we ought to randomize it?
Well, let's do it 2 times tonight. 2 times.
2 times. There's one. And there's 2.
Drum roll.
Oh. It is Charlie Pitts. Charlie Pitts, you are the winner of whatever we spin on this wheel. I got to get my screen back up here. I changed screens so many times I've kind of lost on it. And I'm going to pull it over here, Doc, so everybody can see it. Get as close as I can. We're going to start her right there. I'm going to turn her the other way this time.
Okay.
Try not to spin the bearings out of it. And it is Aaron Wheatley's hoodie from Monsters on the Ohio.
Wow, yeah, boy, he just put that on there last week. Charlie, all you have to do is get a hold of us. I'll give you if you can't get a hold of Aaron or get a hold of Aaron weekly, he will ship that directly to you. Thank you for playing this. We will start a brand new prize wheel spin for next week as soon as we're done here. It takes me a while to get everything loaded up for podcast and YouTube and all the things that we do after we have a show. So bear with me, but I'll get them all. And I did want to mention this to everybody. When you send those messages into the Catfish Weekly and tell us that you want to be entered in these drawings, I copy those names off of your message and I paste it on the next week thing that we're going to spin for. Now, I always hit the like button. If you don't see that we have hit that like button, been missed, or I forgot to hit the like button, and if it has been, just be honest enough to say, hey, you didn't like my post, but it's on there. But if it's not like, chances are I missed it for some reason, so let me know, and we'll be glad to take care of it. We want everybody to be involved with this. It's a lot of fun, and we enjoy it. RigRap was so good to help us out with this, and all of the sponsors. And next week, Doc, it remind me, we need to go over all these sponsors and let everybody know. And for those of you that are on the line about being part of the RigRap prize wheel, there is only 2 spots left. We had a bunch of stuff going this last week, so we didn't get to check in with people to see if anybody else got on there. So if anybody else wants to get on there, there's only 2 spots left, and you can give away some of your products and stuff to all the viewers, and everybody is having a blast with this. So what else? Anything else you have for the night, Doc? We're 1 year less than 1 year away from the national championship
And
tournament.
we have 150 some individuals now qualified with a bunch of tournaments to go.
Yes, we
It's
do.
going to be a blast. It's going to be
Yeah.
a blast. And, you know, get out, check out our sponsors, Survivor, Monsters on the Mississippi, the people that's on here, Hooker's Terminal Tackle, Mississippi River Monsters, Whisker Wear Apparel, Catfish Conference, RigRaps, Whisker Sticks. Check these guys out. They've all got good products, and they're giving them away to you guys. So try to acknowledge them. Robert with Survivor has been so good to us. You guys need to make sure if you don't have a Survivor on your boat, you need one. I'm telling you, that'll save you fish in the long run. So, Stokes, we'll see you next Monday night on Catfish Weekly.